Hi, everybody. We're going to pick up again here. We have a very tight schedule that we have to stay on. So what we're going to do first is give Diana Twist 2 minutes. 2 extra minutes wasn't enough. She wants another 5 seconds, she says, to mention something she did not mention.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to mention when I was given my 1 minute warning, I got a bit flustered, and that was the screen where I was talking about the adult literacy database. That was also my chance to talk about one of our major partners in this project, which is Victor Glickman and his wonderful team at EduData at UBC. So thank you, Victor. Have I redeemed myself?
So our next focus is what youth, or what I'm calling under 18. And first in that area will be Chris Kennedy. Chris, not really under 18. Oh, right, I understand. Chris Kennedy from West Vancouver Schools.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Chris Kennedy, Superintendent of Schools in West Vancouver, and I also serve in a new role working with the Ministry of Education as we revamp curriculum and graduation and reporting. And it's under some of that context that I want to chat this morning. I know some of you are here in the K-12 sector, but it is a really exciting time right now in K-12. We have revised curriculum, which has moved away from being about collection of 100 different items in each curriculum to around big ideas. And where I think there's a real possible intersection around this whole open badges is around the idea of core competencies and thinking about communication, thinking, and personal and social, and having students reflect on these ideas. And that turns into how we communicate out student learning. And so I think there's some real possibilities around the work that we're trying to do around core competencies. And what's made a lot of news then also is the work that relates to the curriculum that we're doing connected to communicating student learning and reporting. We're challenged, I think, by the fact that a new group of parents comes into our buildings every year with their children in kindergarten, and they want their child's report to look kind of like their report looked like. And all of us who succeeded the system, as everything else changes in our world around us, I think we take great assurance sometimes that at least when my child gets to high school, they're going to have A's, B's, and C's. And although I don't really know what that means, I have some concept about, well, we know A's and B's are good and we know C's are not so good. We have something that we have that emotional reaction to it. We've been really trying to change that conversation, and so that conversation is about where students are at and how they move along on that continuum. And it's gotten a fair bit of press lately because I think, in a system where government spends billions of dollars, they want to have some assurances on how well students are doing. And those of us in the system are working with our communities more and more to say that we are putting fewer and fewer grades on papers, and that we are beginning to look at where kids are on a continuum and to give more feedback around where students are. And so, we are stuck in this challenging place right now in the system of a system which has revised curriculum, which really fits with that 21st century skills and 21st century learning. We have a lot of good thinking around communicating that student learning that moves away from traditional reporting. But we still operate in a system where we need our graduates to get into universities, and where we have where you work in an institutional system where you need to have some mechanisms so that the larger public knows how well that we are achieving. And then we're trying to bring in these ideas around portfolios and digital communication of student learning. And so the challenge I present that I would love us to take on in some of our table discussions is just how might open badges be part of the next wave around how we communicate our where we're at, where students are, how they communicate to their peers, how they communicate to their parents, and how we communicate to the larger community about the skills and the attributes that we have in our young people. And you know, our friends here from the West Van Public Library here, that piece around you know, maybe it's not in the institution, but that piece around all the things that our kids are doing in and around school that have so much value that often they're coming into our buildings and we're not recognizing that in an authentic way, and that if it doesn't fit into our boxes, we're not finding a way to give it value. And so I leave us with that challenge about how might open badges and how might that notion be part of this way forward as we rethink communicating student learning and move forward in the K-12 system. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Chris. The next thing up is actually a video. I'm just going to play the video. It should basically explain itself.
Templeton STEM program is a collaborative project between Templeton Secondary School, BCIT, and SAT. It's a unique approach to education for STEM-related programs, so science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. One of the challenges of education today is that students really struggle with the question of why am I doing this in my class? Why is it important to me? And it leads to lack of relevancy, it leads to a lack of engagement in the program.
I chose to go into the STEM program because I went to Montessori school when I was younger, which means that we learned a lot of things using like blocks and beads, so a lot of more visual learning, which made STEM really appealing because of the project-based learning.
We moved on to a solar panel project where the idea was, can we design some computer-controlled system that would find out where the sun is and rotate the panel to follow the sun and capture as much energy as possible. Well, a lot of schools in the district, and I have to say that the Templeton school students are pretty amazing, pretty great useful. And the administration is really fantastic. I think the sort of planets aligning, things that work out in such a way that that combination of things and a little bit of innovation pushing for a STEM program has made this a pretty amazing place to live.
I chose to go into the STEM program mainly because it's sort of a different sort of field as opposed to regular schooling. It felt like we do most of our stuff on pen and paper in normal school, and the idea that we would actually get to build something to learn about was kind of appealing idea to me. My favorite thing about STEM is probably programming stuff with like Arduinos and Raspberry Pis and plotting data on spreadsheets and stuff. That's the main changes I've seen in myself since going into STEM was my ability to plan my time and manage it.
The Templeton Initiative and SAP is the best marriage we've had in many, many years. SAPs involve primarily providing mentorship for the students going through the STEM program. We see working in this mentorship program for SAP extremely important to help build the pipeline of the future, to help us find that great talent and help shepherd them into roles in technology.
The STEM program is a partnership between the Vancouver School Board, BCIT, and SAP. It's really intended to give students a holistic education, both as it relates to project-based learning in the classroom, but also professional skills and a pathway. So what's really important to us is to have the students generate a spark as grade 8s, grade 9s, and then we can nurture that spark as they go through high school, into post-secondary, and eventually into a career in the technology industry.
So one of the reasons I'm really excited about the Templeton project is I think it really exemplifies what I'm trying to do in this role that I've been given, and that is to allow kids seamless transition from each place they tend to spend big chunks of their life. So not just from K-12 to post-secondary, but K-12, post-secondary, and the world of work. I think one of the big things was the collaboration and the partnership between two sectors and the business world. And I think that one of the things that really allows kids to have is hope that what it is that they're doing will actually have some application into the world of work.
It's watching them develop an ability to communicate and handle workflow. Like those things that real adults and professionals don't have. That kind of stuff is really, really awesome. we're turning our students into change agents, which is, I think, is absolutely critical. We couldn't do it without our partners.
And it's also a really important opportunity for our employees to help to share some of their knowledge and their experience with the next generation.
For us, it's really important for industry and academia to do this together.
What I would like to see is models like this become more systemic and pervasive across the province.
Templeton STEM program.
So next up is Dethe Elza from the Vancouver Maker Education Community.
Hi, folks. So I'm Dethe Elza, and I was working at Mozilla in the foundation on the Lightbeam add-on for Firefox to track who's tracking you at the time when Open Badges was just getting started, so I've been fortunate to watch it grow over the years. So how many people here know about Maker Faire and the Maker movement? Good number. So for the ones that don't, Maker Faire is a around the world now series of events that celebrates all maker culture, everything from computer programming to art and crafts, knitting, and giant robotic snakes. Like, it pretty much all fits in. If you're making it and doing it and excited about it, it has a place there. And I've been peripherally involved with that in Vancouver for the past 6 years. So at Mozilla, I got asked to fill in to host an event there for Maker Faire. They thought it was an organizational event, and it turned out to be something much, much more interesting, which was the first Maker Ed meeting. So it was teachers, librarians, parents, makers, kids, community center organizers, administrators, all coming together to say, how can we get kids more involved in their own education and learning in this hands-on way. And so since then, the original organizer left town, and so I've been kind of the co-disorganizer of it. All of our events involve serendipity, chaos, and creativity. My co-disorganizer, Helen Lee, couldn't be here today. She wanted to be, but she is either having a baby or about to have a baby or just had a baby. I'm not sure exactly where she's at in that process right now. So we've been having these events now quarterly as an outgrowth of the Maker Faire and as a way to bring all of these different participants, these different makers and teachers and educators and librarians and kids all together to talk to each other and to present their cool ideas. And at the bottom of each of these slides is one of our goals, because Helen and I are also the organizers of Mozilla Hive, which has a lot of the similar goals and aspirations. So Mozilla Hive is a city by city initiative around the world to help mostly preteens. But in Canada, we have no funding, so we don't also have the limits of the funding. So it's less completely digital and preteen and more everybody who wants to learn and what they want to learn. So in addition to this piece of it, one of the important pieces is to also give permission and to to tell kids that it's okay if their learning needs are not being met entirely by schools and traditional learning, that they can make their own way, and there are so many resources for them. So this piece of it is actually more aspirational than something we've actually achieved yet. So building a directory is hugely important. It's also a huge task. Fortunately, some of our groups who've been coming to Maker Faire and coming to the Maker Education Meetup are actually taking this on. So I often refer to myself, my role there, as chief cheerleader. So I get out and I tell people about all the cool things that are going on and all the great activities and people working on stuff, and help them all get to know each other. Because everybody's so busy doing it that they don't always have time to tell people that they're doing it or to learn what other people are doing. So we try and help keep too much crossover, but also just helping the good crossover, not the repetition. And so for us, the badges could be a good fit because we're doing all kinds of different hands-on activities. The hives are a once a year activity with lots of hands-on tables. The most recent one at the Richmond Public Library. And but for us to actually make use of badges, with all of the different participants, they have to be super easy to ease into. We need a low barrier to entry. And we also need the demand to be there for who do I actually show the badges to, and what's the reason for me to get them. So I think kids and all of our learners see the potentials for their own learning, but they need a goal for the badges. So, thank you.
So I'm just going to play Sweeper again and talk about some other examples from elsewhere, basically focused on youth. This first is Supporter to Reporter, and this was actually a key program that Dan Hickey and Nate Otto was part of the group, I think, back then. Looking into Supporter to Reporter, they were Digital Me out of the UK, funded by Haystack, and essentially it's engaging kids' passion with sport and turning it into development of communication skills. So basically, they would interview people about the sports and then package together shows of this, and hugely, hugely successful. And this is another one out of the UK. This is the Duke of York Nominate Trust. Essentially, the reason I have this one here, they went out and partnered with private sector organizations to sponsor different badges in their ecosystem. And then it's a way of developing entrepreneurship at a very early age and the skills that go along with that. Hive Toronto, Dethe has talked about the Hive system. They were funded to develop open privacy badges, and so they used a framework developed by Mozilla on digital literacy, added their own bits and pieces to that, and badged that as well. Again, as a community youth-oriented thing. City and Guilds, I was talking about them before. They have something they call the Tech Back, which is kind of like an alternative high school. You can get your matriculation in high school, but in a vocational setting. And basically, it's highly mobile, e-learning friendly. They manage their profiles and they earn badges that go into their profiles, and their technical badges, but also soft skill type badges. And we mentioned, I think, Cities of Learning. Chicago's City of Learning got its start in 2013. The mayor, Emmanuel, I think his name, declared Chicago to be 2013 to be the summer of learning. So it engaged youth who were possibly going to drop back a bit outside of school, engage them in a lot of community-based activities and organizations with local libraries, museums, etc. Highly, highly successful. And it's translated into a city of learning and increasingly cities of learning. And along the way, they lost the vowels. Now it's LRNG. Chicago is one of the key cities of learning in that map I showed you before. And their goal by 2018 is that it will engage 1 million youth across 70 communities in the U.S. And you saw STEM mentioned before in that video. These people are a lot about STEAM, so they think arts has a big role to play. And that's something that when we talk about the breakout session, you folks can maybe work that into the conversation. Something here I wanted to mention, this is just a one-off, and it's somewhat proprietary. It's a partnership between an organization called, I think, Learning Machine and Credly. And basically, they have what they call the common application there. You fill in one application, you go to several universities, you fill in your profile, and you talk about what programs you want to get into. They've actually set it up so that you can display badges in there. Really, it's just a specific use case of, give us a link to something that you want us to know about you. In this case, it goes out to basically an open badge that they might have earned. We have mentioned this in the past. This is really a common theme, to engage the educators, to badge the badgers first so they can badge more authentically rather than what they think badging is all about. A number of organizations are doing this. EDUCAUSE is a very famous one dealing with educational technology. They badge not only PD, but also community involvement, volunteerism as a professional in the community, et cetera, being a good, helpful resource in the community. All those things are becoming badged in the EDUCAUSE system. Digital Promise, actually, Nate wearing another hat, is working with this organization, and it's basically badging PD for delivery of 21st century learning. PD Learning Network on the bottom there, they're focused on ISTE, educational technology standards. Over on the right is, they've rebranded themselves, and I forget what they call themselves now, but VIF Internet, sorry? Participate, yeah, they call themselves Participate now, but it hasn't made it all the way across their websites. VIF International, this is global education for American schools, learning about the world, and I think they, based on what I'm hearing down there, there could be some need for that. So these people have been at it for a number of years, and it's quite successful, and it's a great way of engaging internationally. So now we're ahead of schedule. I like that. Basically, we have a pop-up design session, and this is somewhat experimental, so bear with us in terms of how it works. We have asked the speakers to spread themselves out through the room, and each speaker has been ending mostly with a badge challenge. Hopefully, you'll work with the speaker on that badge challenge. Those of you at other tables without speakers, I have suggestions on what you can work on here. And so, for instance, in Diana's area, we'll be working with her badge challenge. But for example, is there someone here from a professional body? I think somebody registered from a professional body. Did that person show up? Okay, so that's an option. You can talk about, continuous professional development or other ways of using badges in professions on table 6 or not, okay? But where there's a speaker, hopefully you'll work on what their badge challenge is. I have STEM in schools. If you want, you can make that STEAM. That's on table 8. On table 10, I've got high school to post-secondary transition. Be really interested to see what comes up on that, ways in terms of supporting it. The key tool we'd like you to use is here. And oh, by the way, is that senior school apprenticeship? That's what SSA stands for, I think. Maybe somebody from the K-12 system can help with that. That again is an option for you. So on your tables, there are multiple copies of this. It's an 11 by 17. Hopefully, we can nominate one person to sort of be the markup person. Others, you can look at the alternate copy to be able to see it, and I'll also leave this up here. And basically, what this badge canvas is a way of focusing your thinking. It's almost backward thinking. So in other words, who are these badges for? Why? What is our goal in doing them? Who's going to look at them? Who's going to value them? And I'd like you to please work through this and complete what you can. One thing I would say is with the badge canvas, if you can mark your table number on it and hopefully leave it behind. Again, this is really valuable information for us, and we hope to learn a lot from it. and just sort of work through the issues. And we have some people who can help you sort of get jump started. I'll be wandering through the room, and we just want you to work through the badge challenge that's been set up for you. If you don't like the optional one that we've set up, by all means, choose another one that's of more interest to you by building consensus around the table. And we'll just let it rip for half an hour. Thank you. Yeah, I will. Yeah.